Hey guys, I've had a few questions about self-love and self-confidence, so I'm going to speak to that this morning. A few people have said it seems like I've evolved. I think that's a great word because that's what we can all hope for in our lives as we go through it, is to continue evolving, learning, growing, expanding. So I'll take that as a compliment. And just elaborating on that, I believe the way to self-love and self-confidence is by working on yourself. And I talk a lot about alone time and finding your passions and just bettering yourself. So, we all have areas we all say, oh, I wish I could paint, or I wish I could draw, or I wish I could do yoga, or I wish I could do these things. And instead of wishing, it's going out and it's being a beginner, and it's saying, I don't care if I suck at this, I'm going to keep doing it. And it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to start taking ballet classes because I want to be a professional ballerina. No, I don't care. I know that I'm an adult and I'm never going to be a professional ballerina, but that's okay. It doesn't make it any less worthy of my time. And that's where I think that, if you're devoting time to things you enjoy doing, it's never a waste of time. It's not like, oh, I've just been taking painting classes for 3 months and I still suck. It's like, no way. It's like, well, I've met a lot of new friends in painting class, and by my standards, I'm still not that good, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I learned a lot. It's not about the outcome, it's about what we got from it. And just talking about my own path, I didn't do a handstand or think to do handstands before I was 25 years old. I didn't think that handstands were going to be, my life. I didn't set out and say, oh, I'm going to become the best at handstands, which I'm definitely not. But, I didn't set out with that intention. I wasn't like, I have to be the best. It wasn't there. It was just like, man, I really like doing this, and it's really fun. And that's just really the point, is fun. Having fun and, doing things that challenge you and doing new things and working, that's all working on yourself, because you can't be worried about anything else when you're having fun. It's the same thing with acro yoga. Pablo and I, comparatively we're definitely not acrobats. We're not super good at acro yoga. It doesn't make it any less fun for us to practice together in our living room. We don't do it to be the best, because I just think we can get really hard on ourselves with this, oh, I'm not good enough, and then becomes like comparing to other people. And that's why I say comparatively, because the people we know and train with are amazing acrobats. So when we look at our practice, even though maybe when you guys look at us, you think, oh, they're so good. But when we look at others, we think, oh, no, they're really good. So it's all just our own journey and our own path. And it doesn't matter about seeing what your neighbor is doing next to you in yoga class. It's about you and doing it for you, doing everything for you. Going into an advanced asana pose in yoga class because your neighbor's doing it and you feel competitive is not going to benefit your practice. Benefiting your practice is doing what you need. And there's a great quote, comparison is the thief of joy. And that's so true, because we can all look at other people and say, oh, well, look what they have. Oh, look what we have. But we can all look at ourselves and say, we have life. And in that sense, we're all equal. Every single person on this planet, as long as you're breathing, is equal. Because we all get one chance at life, and that's it, So there is no better or worse. There's just living. And, a lot of times I've read that people will interview older people, they're in their 90s, and they'll say, what do you wish you had done more of? Most of them say, I wish I had worked less and take life less seriously. Because just especially in our youth, we just worry so much about what everyone else thinks about us. How do we look? What do we own? What are the things we're wearing? How is everyone else perceiving us? And all of that shit dissipates. And that's why I always love meeting or hanging out with old people. And that brings me to a story. I think I wrote one the other day. I'll share it soon. Because they have no filter anymore. They don't care. They don't have, their exterior looks. They don't care what people think about what they're wearing. They've, if they ever had a big home, they've given it up and they've moved into that one-bedroom apartment that they had when they were in college, because they can't take care of a big house anymore. None of that stuff matters in the long run. of times they've lost their partner already, you know, and I can't imagine that feeling of what it must be like. It must be pretty surreal, but to be in that circumstance. And I was just kind of drifting away thinking about my friend Joy in Australia. And I know I said I'm going to tell this story, but I kind of want to tell it now because I met Joy and she was 92 years old. And this was in 2014 when I was living in Australia, and I was hitchhiked into town and I met Joy because I had just picked up this dress that seemed to fit me perfectly at an op shop or a thrift store. They call them op shops in Australia. And I walked in, I had to get cash from the market next door, and Joy was behind me in line, and she said, "Darling, you just look perfect in that dress." And I said, "Oh, thank you so much. I'm actually buying it right now from the lady across the street." And we got out of line. We got pulled out of line by her friend, actually. And we had like a 30-minute conversation right there because we were so intrigued by each other and just so happy to be having conversation with each other. And we hugged before we left, and it was kind of serendipitous because I ended up seeing Joy a couple hours later as I was about to hitch back into the farm, and Joy ended up taking me with her for the day. So that's a story that I'll tell, but this is getting lengthy, so I'll cut it short. Work hard to do the things that you want to do. Make priorities and start checking off that list, because those things are the things that make you who you are.